I'm Chuck Case, drum set and percussion instructor at Case School of Music in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Welcome to our weekly Lesson of the Week segment. And this is the first segment to be filmed in our new location in the Western Mall. We're very excited about that. We had a great time in downtown Sioux Falls, but this space better accommodates our needs. And we are located, like I say, in the Western Mall, near the West Mall 7 Theaters and Hoover's Martial Arts. So we're across the hallway from them. Come check us out when you get a chance. But what we're going to be doing today is having a drum set lesson. And we are just going to take a basic rock beat and we're going to show you how to embellish that a little bit. So what we're going to be using today for our text is Progressive Steps to Syncopation for the Modern Drummer by Ted Reed. And what we're going to be doing is using those first 4 exercises on page 22 of that book. So I'm going to back up a little bit and tell you what the foundational beat that we're going to be using before we embellish it. All it is 8 notes on the hi-hat, bass drum on 1 and 3, snare drum on 2 and 4. So here's how that beat sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? So that's our foundational pattern. But what we're going to be doing now is going to page 22 of that Syncopation book. If you have that book with you, turn into it right now. But page 22, exercise number 1. So here's how that pattern is going to sound, that rhythm on number 1 is going to sound. It's 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4. But now what we're going to be doing is putting counts 2 and 4 on the snare drum. So here's how that number 1 is going to sound. 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4. Now we're going to add our bass drum back in from our original pattern. As you remember, again, counts 1 and 3. So here's how number 1 is going to sound when you put it all together. 1 and 2 and ready, play. 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2 and 3 and 4. Alright, so that's a nice little embellishment. Now we're going to try number 2 the same way. So let's just do the hi-hat and snare part that we would incorporate that into our groove. So here's number 2. The basic rhythm is 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and. So let's apply that to the hi-hat and snare drum. Here it is. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4. Okay? So now we're going to add the bass drum in there. Here's how it goes. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4. All right. Number 3. That exercise by itself is called 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and. So now here's how it goes with the hi-hat and snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. Now let's add that bass drum in on 1 and 3. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. And there it is. And our last one today is number 4. We count that exercise 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a. So here's how the hi-hat and snare part goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now let's add the bass drum. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4E and a 1. Now you probably won't play a song where you're going to be playing that same beat for every measure, but what you might do is just kind of throw it in for a little bit of spice. So I would suggest playing maybe that groove that we just did, the hi-hat variation first for the first measure, and back to the original groove for the second measure. So I'm going to go back to number 1 here, and let's make a 2-measure pattern, variation the first measure, and then our regular beat the second measure. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's great. I mean, it's a nice, simple variation. But like salt or any other spice you might put on food, if you put that in there too much there, it's going to kind of spoil the groove a little bit there. So kind of put that in as a surprise. But another thing we can do on those 16th notes is we can double bounce those. Now Larry London used this quite a bit in his songs, in some of his songs with Steve Perry, and occasionally he'd throw that in there with one of the songs he would do with Journey as well. But so what we're going to do is double bounce those 16th notes. So here's how number 1 sounds like, double bouncing those 16th notes, okay? So the hi-hat pattern is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now let's add the bass drum in there, but let's take it back to our 2-measure pattern. So we're going to do those double bounce those 16th notes just in that first measure and followed by the original pattern for the second measure. Okay, here it is. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And there it is. Okay? Larry London used to fill it in on count 3, so that'd be like exercise number 3 on this. So here's what he would do. Actually, I'm going to put the main pattern first, then I'm going to throw in the hi-hat variation in the second measure. And you can work those exercises that way too, just flip-flop the order. So, number 3, here we go. So here it is, with double bouncing those 16th notes on the second measure. Here it is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I got a little bit of hi-hat there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's what Larry London would do. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And there you have it. That's today's lesson of the week. Take some time today to make some music, and you'll be glad you did. See you next week.